Hi, welcome on board, everyone. Just give us a few minutes and we will be starting shortly. Okay. So let's say good morning, good evening, good timing. I don't know what time zone that you're joining us today. We're super honored and pleased to be with you here and our distinguished, remarkable speakers to talk about a very trendy topic that everyone is still navigating and trying to see how it affects and impacts our daily practices. In this discussion, we're having Navigating Tomorrow AI and Future-Proofing Strategies for School Leaders. As you're joining, this session is going to be for 1 hour. We'll start with this kind of general intro. Our panelists will share with us some of their experiences with AI. We'll set the tone for this session, and then we'll start our questions. Our questions will be discussing mainly 4 main themes, as how we're going to being prepared for using AI, ethical considerations, and how we're going also to collaborate and to improve our practices when we're implementing this within our schools. We will leave some time for question and answers at the end. So please, if you have any questions, share it with us via the chat. Or if you are watching us via YouTube, please write it in the comment and the team will share it with us. However, before we start, we want to highlight a few principles. Education. When we're talking about education, we're talking about a comprehensive approach. We're not only talking about cognitive information or abilities, we're talking about developing the whole person. When we're talking about school leaders, we're not only talking about principals, we're talking about student leadership, we're talking about teacher leadership, community leadership, in addition to schools and principals' relationship with universities and higher ed. And when we're talking about future-proofing, it's not only about reacting to something that we find ourselves using or every other sectors are introducing it. We want to be prepared and manage the change before it happens, in addition to direct and see how we can benefit from this, our utmost. I think everyone is super ready with us. My name is Rania Sawalhi, and I'm going to be the moderator. As we're going to introduce our distinguished speakers, let me start with Dr. Shakir Lishwal. He's currently the Executive Director of Global Studies Institute. He had a magnificent experience as a scientific support program manager with the Muallim Center for Knowledge and Education, Saudi Arabia. He also has more than 15 years teaching science and technology, so that would be a very interesting discussion with us today. He's a vocal advocate for educational improvement, and we're talking about, kind of different contexts, Arab American, Gulf communities. He has lots of publications, and he presented within TEDx talk. His recent publication is about practical field applications and assessment literacy for educators in a hurry. And that's kind of interesting. We'll learn more about Dr. Shakir, how he promotes AI in education. And the floor is yours, Dr. Shakir.
Thank you, Dr. Rania. If you allow me, I will just share my slides. And I know I have to keep my introduction brief. So, okay. So if you notice, sorry about that. That's, okay. If you notice here, I'm just going to briefly go for the next couple of minutes, just highlight some of the challenges associated with AI. I want to, start maybe with the first, challenge or the first thing that we will need to consider. When I say challenges, I'm referring not to the real and practical challenges relating to the implementation only, like for example logistics, training, and things like that. I'm actually going to highlight some philosophical concepts and ideas that are relevant to the conversations. So let me begin with just highlighting the fact that we always use the word integrating AI in education. And like we've been using integrating with the word technology for the past 40 years. And I think it's time that we reevaluate the use of integrating and maybe, insert or use the word utilize or employ AI in education so that AI is subservient to education and that education is at the foundation and education is fundamental. Another idea for us is this challenge of defining AI. Like, how do we perceive AI? We often refer to AI as a tool, and the reference to AI as a tool implies that we're talking about something that performs specific tasks and something that is under our total control. When in fact, AI is, it's almost closer to what we can call a digital being or a digital entity, as it has the capacity to do a lot of the things that match our capacity, right? So from listening to seeing, to managing, to analyzing, to thinking. So the idea that this AI is now able to manage power grids and create chemical compounds, I think pushes us to think that this is more than a tool, right? And the relevant for us in using this concept in education is that if we have for the past 40 years been trying to employ or use or integrate technology in education with limited success, vis-a-vis the impact on student achievement. I think it forces us to consider how we would deal with AI as this very powerful piece. If we really want to make sure that we're achieving the goals we need to achieve. Another idea, for me to present to you today is also this philosophy of goals of deploying AI in education. Why are we doing it? Are we doing it because it's trendy? Are we doing it, because we just want to meet, the needs of the individual needs of kids as a differentiating, tool? And I think we need to kind of, go back a step to reflect on really the real outcomes that we want from our educational system and to see how we could leverage and how we could use AI to help us achieve those goals. The last thing, and I'll probably end here to give my colleagues enough time to do their introductions. I think we're also grappling with something with expectations versus reality. We've thought we always come up with these tools, whether the technology, devices or applications, and we think that by simply introducing these technologies, that they will do the magic. Decades later, we are discovering that the magic is done by teachers, and that even the AI, with its ability to offer personalized, education, it will not be the magic, as every student learns differently. There's still plenty of opportunities to use AI, but what we will need to do, in addition to knowing exactly what our outcomes are and how we need to leverage it, is also understand that what are our needs and to match those needs with the AI applications and tools so that the use is meaningful and can give us the results to help sustain our systems and meet the needs of every student. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shakir. That's really powerful, because we need to have a clear start with how we define AI. It's not only ChatGPT, and that should be obvious for everyone. It might be including robots, it might include different tools that could be used, and how we're going to utilize it and to what extent. So highlighting those expectations are really important. And also we encourage our participants, if you please, can share with us your concerns, comments, things that you would like us to focus on within our discussion today. So thank you, Dr. Shakir, for setting the tone for the start of this. And we also move to Randa. Randa has an honors degree in computer science from McMaster University, and her master's degree in education technology from the University of Balamant, Lebanon. And excuse me if I didn't pronounce it correctly. She is certified educator from International Society of Technology in Education. And she had provided us with lots of sessions and contributions regarding AI and technologies in various countries, online and in person. She's also a co-founder of Maharatek, which is an education technology company to empower educators with technology. Randa would share with us also practical examples and will let us know more about this AI and how we can use it at our personal and our professional level. The floor is yours, Randa.
Thank you, Dr. Rania. As Dr. Rania said, I'm going to make it practical. So I'm going to use a tool, an AI tool that is not ChatGPT. Actually, it's a QueryPod. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with QueryPod. QueryPod is an AI tool where you can create an interactive presentation that you can share with your students with the power of AI. Definitely, it can create the slides for you, and also you can create your own slide, but it has the feature of giving feedback using AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you this QR code and the link. So I'm gonna share the link in the chat. You can join using the link if you are using the laptop. If you are using your phone, you can scan the QR code and participate. Now, once you are there, I will put this first question. The first question is, what is plagiarism? So start thinking about the answer because you only have 1 minute to answer the question.
And Randa, they can answer in any language, right?
Yes, in any
in
language.
Turkish,
You can answer it in Turkish, in Arabic, in English, in French, any language you want. AI can understand. Even though I don't understand Turkish, but Kiripod can translate that to Turkish and give you the feedback accordingly. So, okay, I'm gonna give you 1 minute, 30 seconds just in case because like to have enough time for typing. So I'm gonna start the question now. And on the screen, you can see how would you define plagiarism? So you can still join using the link I did, and also you can put this Curie.live and with the PIN number. You can join at any time. You can use this tool with any number of students, so it doesn't matter. Even I did use it with like more than around 200 students, and it went fine. Make sure the code one more time. And everybody is logged in with a nickname, not their real name, to avoid bullying. Okay, so we are almost there. We have 9 answers.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press on give feedback. So it's not me who's going to give the feedback, it's AI. So let's check out the feedback let's see the Turkish because I don't understand Turkish. So I'm gonna check the feedback that AI gave you. Great effort in tackling the definition. Your response shows an understanding of the concept, which is good. However, please ensure that your answer is in English. It doesn't really matter. They did understand your language, though. Keep up the good work. Okay, so if you say, let's say, for example, stealing knowledge, and let's see, you've started with a strong concept. Okay, see now they divided the feedback with like the content, evidence, organization, and at the end there is language. So for each one, it gave you feedback on that. How much time does the teacher need to give such a feedback for every student? So definitely a kind of cheating. It is actually a kind of cheating, but it's not the only way of cheating. Okay, so you can see that even if you have more than 100 students, you can still give the feedback using AI. Now, another question, this time it's a poll. You have only 30 seconds, so be ready. And I'm gonna show the option. Can a robot, sorry, this is a spelling mistake. Can a robot be a teacher? Yes, no. I have 9 answers. Only 9 are interacting. Okay.
I think we can
10.
see the answers due to time. Yep.
Good. Okay, so 6 said yes. Oh my God. And 4 said no. Okay. I'm with the no, but we can discuss more during this panel and we will see. Now, at the end of the session, you can see how many people, now, regardless of the name, you can see that 64% were engaged, they participated, and I can see who answered both questions, who answered only one question. I can check with the student, each one of them, what did they answer, what feedback they got, and from the activity, I can see who said yes, who said no, and all these data are with me when I finish this lesson. So this was an example of one AI tool, and then we'll talk more about it during the panel.
Thank you, Randa. Well, although you focus on the practical example, but you have selected the question about plagiarism to guide us into the ethical consideration for the use of AI and different technological or educational technologies. In addition, it's a question that we've kind of been discussing because I was reading this book. It was should robots replace teachers, AI, and the future of education? And you said you don't want to use the word replace. Let's just focus on could robots be teachers? And that would
Yes,
have lots of, kind of impact and sub-themes within our discussion. Please, please,
definitely.
please. Also, we're encouraged. Thank you, Randa. We're encouraging our participants to share with us their comments, concerns, either within the chat and within the YouTube comments, please. So, Dr. Shireen, we're still in intro and with your experience from K to 12 and higher ed, you also was a college principal. You graduated from University of Bath, and with your experiences in facilitating and having lots of AI sessions in different countries and different contexts. In addition, you're helping also, you're serving as a full-time senior consultant and researcher to help institutes and individuals to work on developing their policies and practices. Would you take us more into your journey with AI?
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. We can skip this one.
Yep.
You already did the introduction. Okay, so the AI tools have been there for quite some time, and we see a range of AI tools. And we get a lot of school leaders, principals, they are ready for an AI transformation, but they don't know where to start, where to begin. Go to the next slide. So I think the very most important thing for educators to keep in mind, especially for leaders, is to keep their vision in mind. And I know Dr. Shakir also alluded to this. So what is your vision as a school? What are your priorities as a school? There are so many AI tools out there. It's very easy to get lost with it, amongst all of those different options. I mean, AI, like Dr. Rania had said, AI can range from ChatGPT. This is generative AI, with text bots, and it can range to, in China, they created an AI tool that can tell you how many seconds a child was focusing on your lesson and how many seconds the child was daydreaming. So when we have our vision in mind, we can really understand where our priorities are. So if our priorities are to create children who are ready for the future, if our priority is the well-being of our children, that can really help us focus to what AI tools we want to get to. So what's the roadmap? Okay? So the first thing is we want to define our objectives based on this vision. So our school vision is to make sure our students are prepared for the future. I want to make sure that they understand the uses of AI, or how it can be, they know how to use AI. So if that's my vision, then one of my objectives is to make sure the students at my school know how to use AI. Once you have set out those different objectives based on the vision, then with any strategy or any creation of a strategy, you have to assess the needs. So you start off with a needs analysis of your school, of your institute, to determine how much do my teachers know, how much do my students know, what's our budget, what are our priorities, and really to understand where we are and where we want to be. Then you start prioritizing. So it's very difficult to get all of the AI tools and just throw them at your teachers and at your students and just hope for the best. Once you start prioritizing, what's the first thing, what's the most important thing for me, is that making sure my students know what AI is and my teachers know what AI is. So is it the capacity building? Is my priority academic integrity? So plagiarism, Ms. Aranda alluded to plagiarism. Is integrity one of our values? Do we want to focus on making sure our students maintain academic integrity? Then I'm going to prioritize making sure the capacity building is at that level. Once we know our priorities, our needs, we have our objectives, then we can select the tools. And we can select the tools depending on our budget and our priorities to make sure that we are still working towards our vision. So if academic integrity is your priority, you may want to invest in detection tools. You may want to invest in capacity building for your teachers to understand what subcontracting looks like or what plagiarism looks like. And then you want to establish policies. So you want, if, for example, you want AI to be integrated in teaching, to be integrated so that people know how to use AI, you want to create teaching and learning policies which draw upon upon those AI tools. So you want to tell teachers, I want to see technology within your teaching, and this is what good teaching looks like. Okay, then we start building the capacity. So we start developing the teachers, we start developing the individuals that we've got in our institute, and we make sure all of these priorities, these objectives, they are clearly communicated to everyone. And a communication strategy includes everyone from parents, because they have to understand what AI is, they have to understand the ethical implications, down to the very student. So that's it for me, but you can go on. Thank you, Dr. Rania.
Thank you, Dr. Shireen. And I think this is a very good start, and you already addressed some of the questions in the chat regarding from where to start and why the rush and what is it exactly expected from us. And there are lots of tools, and should we all, kind of follow AI or just avoid it? Like we have lots of things that we need to accommodate or to focus on. So thank you for the intro. This was kind of a very quick overview of how our distinguished panelists had experience within AI. And just that would guide us to our panel discussion. I'm not going to leave the slide. I'm just going to say the main themes. So I will change some of the wording, Dr. Shakir. Instead of integration, I will say the utilization, or how we're going to utilize AI in schools. maybe we're going to share kind of success stories based on your experience. We're going to talk about challenges, or we're talking about innovative ways of when we're thinking and talking about this concept of AI. Another concept that we will be discussing within our discussion will be regarding training and how are we going to build capacity, as you mentioned, Dr. Shireen and others. The ethical considerations, either for equity or for privacy, or lots of things that we might be touching base on. And the last point that we would try to reach is how we can build collaboration and partnership for having more comprehensive of community kind of leadership and approach. So let's start our discussion with our distinguished speakers. And the first question will be about, there are lots of tools and there are lots of things happening out there. How can school leaders and principals in specific, like avoid the challenges that they are having when they're using AI or utilizing AI in their schools? I'm leaving the floor for who would like to start. Randa?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, because I didn't hear it?
Sorry, I was talking about how can school principals, school leaders avoid some of the challenges when they're selecting tools to utilize AI?
When selecting tools, actually, as Dr. Shireen said, we have to start with the priorities, with the policies, and then after that, we will see what they need. Like, we have to assess the needs of teachers and what we want from them. So if we want, let's say, to teach them how to use AI ethically, then we have to show them some examples where AI can hallucinate, where AI can give us false false information or biased information, and then we have to get this to this point. For example, if we are teaching online and we need interactive let's say presentations, we can select QueryPod, we can select just for the school. There is a big variety of tools that teachers can use for as assistant or with the students. For example, you have School AI and Magic School for younger students, where they can teachers can monitor the students using AI. And this is a very good tool where you can teach them how to write the prompts, what are the questions that you can ask, or what are the questions you should not ask AI. Like all these things, like it depends on the priorities and the main needs that the school wants.
I will come back to you, Dr. Aranda, regarding assessment, and also Dr. Shakir, if you would like to share with us regarding, kind of your recommendations for early years for different school levels. But I remember when I conducted one of the studies after COVID or during early stages within COVID, many principals told me, we wish that we encouraged our teachers to learn new technologies and to implement them, because when the pandemic started, everyone rushed to start learning new technologies and new ways, regardless of, like what are their needs. So the comment that I will never forget, when one of the school principals told me, I wish that I allowed them. So there are a wish, and there is the kind of empowerment and concepts of what is it exactly and how we're sharing and building capacity. Dr. Shakir?
Yes, I think this is a great question, because when we're thinking about AI, we think about it from different levels, right? Because we have different types of schools. We have private, international schools, and then we have government schools. And every school system has its own guidelines. International schools, private schools, they have more freedom, more decision making. Government schools, they're centralized, and so the amount of space or the room for them to make their own decisions, can be limited. However, we can say, when it comes to at this age, whether someone is leading a school or someone is leading the organization. In this case, we're talking about schools. Thinking about all aspects within my school and figuring out how can I leverage AI to support and to make me more efficient and to help me achieve, deliver on my vision. So, for example, if I want to improve parental engagement, how can I use AI to help me with communication with the parents? If I want to improve, student achievement, are there tools that can be used? For example, if we're talking about writing as an issue, and I'm going to link that to the plagiarism. Because we think that automatically by employing AI that we're introducing plagiarism. But what we have to also remember that ChatGPT is just an engine that other people are going to come and utilize and fix and create, and create guidelines or guardrails to make sure that the use is okay for the students. So, for example, Khan Academy right now is coming up with this app that helps students with writing. So a student doesn't know where to start, the AI will help them, get started, and then it will prompt the student to actually contribute to this written piece. At the end, the AI will produce a report that indicates how much did the students contribute and how did they, and which part was the AI. Was contributed by the AI. So, so from looking at from the communication with the parents to the student achievement by introducing personalized, instructional apps, to looking at the data, to creating the most challenging thing for schools up to now, which is the professional learning communities. Why have we been having a lot of difficulties creating professional learning communities? Because teachers don't have time. They don't have time to analyze the data. They don't have time to create lesson plans. They don't have time, to structure their meetings. And so, so there is plenty of room, and there are many different ways for us to introduce AI, but it can't be forced. It has to align with our needs, and it has to be done strategically with the systemic support that has to be put in place for it to be successful and for school leaders to avoid the frustration and the pitfalls. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shakir. And, as you had referred and mentioned regarding cheating, as one of the questions, will AI and AI tools make cheating easier? I think that would take us back to the educational system. And as you mentioned in your morning session today, do we encourage children or learners to start cheating from early days? And do we need to develop our systems in place instead of only saying that AI is responsible for cheating or plagiarism? A thought about this.
Yeah, so, task, we say in education, task predicts performance, right? And so if you're asking, a student, for an essay and they can just simply go to ChatGPT and produce it, what would stop them, from doing that? Everyone is looking for a shortcut. Even us in our work, we're always looking for shortcuts. But, we learn that we have to modify, we have to fix, and we have to make sure that everything is contextualized. This is the kind of knowledge that the students need. And so, of course, in order for ChatGPT not to be just this easy tool where people can, copy things from, we have to transform our teaching. And I think that's where the power of AI comes from forcing us with all of these capabilities, forcing us to transform our teaching, because education is not going to be transformed by itself. We now have more tools that save us time and that give us more capabilities to help us reflect more and reflect better about what we expect from the students, so we can do things differently, teach differently for different results.
Thank you. And that would take us, Shireen, like one of the questions is asking us, do we need to wait instead of rushing into AI? And, like what, as from your experience with the workshops and consultations, what do you think?
I think it's very important for school leadership to understand their constituents, to understand the people they are working with, and to really listen. And I think the success of any change management is to communicate. So have those conversations Find out who your change partners are going to be. That means who in your school is going to help drive this change. Any change is not a one-man show. So it's not the principal who's going to say, okay, tomorrow we're changing, we're putting AI everywhere. We have to see how receptive they are, and try to put things in according to a pace that they will be able to understand. So for some schools where they're already using AI to a large extent and teachers are already very comfortable with using technology, it might not be very difficult to get those policies in place just to make sure everyone is on the same page. But in other places where technology is not part of the culture of the school, where maybe teachers are lacking some of the capacity building, maybe they don't have the devices or the computers available, then there has to be a different approach. So that needs analysis is important. Understanding who those change partners are within your school, the people who are going to be with you, the teachers who are really ahead of the game. It's also critical to make sure that they're in the picture. And it's all about communicate, 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 and communicate two ways. It's not communicate one way. I'm going to tell you guys what we're going to do. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your input and I want to hear your viewpoints and how ready you are to take things forward. Most of the time, principals are going to be surprised that people are ready.
Yeah, I want to add something, Dr. Rania, if I could, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, sure.
Yeah, so if a school leader today is asking, if they're rushing or if they could wait, I think we need to tell them that they are way behind already. If 80% of the students, or in some places, or a lot of students know about these tools, they use them and they can use them, and now increasingly more teachers are using them, the only constituency that's far behind right now is school leaders. And that's why it's critical for school leaders right now to really, take charge of this and really try to catch up. The idea that, I'm going to wait for someone's best practice until I see something happening somewhere and then bring it to my community and then face the reality that my community is different. I think we need to take an alternate route. And, we're already too late. We're already behind. So how can we pilot? How can we test? And what kind of trainings do we need to put in place to help our teachers understand how to use it effectively and to help our students understand how to use it as well to support themselves?
It's really interesting because there are some people would do lots of start lots of strategies to enhance and to develop their teaching and learning strategies and be aware, although they might not rush into the implementation of AI, but they will start raising the awareness and talking about the ethical consideration and lots of things related to this concept and working on the human and social aspect of teaching and learning and the comprehensive approach, health and wealth, etc., while they would let's say start navigating and exploring, as we had addressed the title of this session. But on the other side, if, as you had mentioned, if I will just remain waiting, what others are going to do, we will, we will stay way behind till we reach to that level, and we will not be able even to react. And we're trying with this session to avoid reacting. Rand, I asked about assessment and kind of, as Dr. Shakir took us to the second point or the second theme, how we can prepare teachers or how we can help building capacity. I remember in when the technologies had been used with higher ed and some secondary students, teachers were asking about assessment, how we can prevent cheating, and they were talking about eye tracking to make sure that they are not opening some other devices, especially during the hybrid learning or online learning. So Randa, your experience with assessments.
Okay. First of all, I want to say something about the rushing part. It is already students are using it. So we are already behind if you are not aware of it. So that's why when it comes to assessment, definitely there is a change. There should be a change. As Dr. Shakir mentioned before, that the use of technology is upgrading the teaching. So when first calculator came up, all math teachers were very afraid and they were opposing the use of calculator. But what happened next is they are using calculators now inside the test because they don't want to waste time on just calculations. And this is the same thing with the AI. AI is a tool that is very useful and it is helping us, and definitely it will be helping our students. But students, they trust the AI tool more than us. We are aware of the mistakes that might have, like AI tools might make, but students, they are not really ready and aware of that. So that's why when we are putting the assessment together, we have to integrate part of it. If we ask students to go and ask like any AI chatbot, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, any of these free tools that they have, to get the answer, and then we ask them to compare, to validate. And so we have to teach them how to look at these answers and then move to the next level, and then the critical thinking, the design thinking, the problem solving, all the skills they need in the workplace. We have to integrate it in the assessment. It's not anymore memorization and just applying directly all these things. We have to integrate subjects together. So the assessment should be another level. So it should not be, as Dr. Shaker said, give them an essay and then ask the AI chatbot to give them the essay and then we give it back. It should not be there like this anymore.
Interesting.
Dr.
Yeah,
Rania,
go ahead, Dr. Shaker.
if
Yeah,
you
yeah, go
allow.
ahead.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
thank you. So it's it's interesting, and it's even funny how we're like panicking about the assessment, as if it's something just like separate and isolated from the whole educational process. In fact, if I don't have the right standards and my assessment is not aligned to the right standards, then what am I assessing? So, so that's why the rush, when people talk about the rush is in this aspect, right? The rush is in, okay, let's bring AI, but we're not thinking why, right? We're not thinking, what are we going to change? What are we working toward that, we have to change our teaching to achieve it. And then, okay, so what am I assessing? What am I teaching these students to assess? Am I just giving them the information? Am I, and telling them to just, write this piece? Or what am I expecting them? What do I need them to know and be able to do? I mentioned this example of, we have like a team of 15 people from 13 different nationalities, all English language learners, and they're all writing the best emails because they've been introduced to these AI applications. So I mean, this is the reality, like on the ground, that we have to think about, so we can reflect and connect the assessment to the standards, and so that the assessment is not just this isolated piece.
I know Shireen wants also to add a comment, but before you add, Shireen, I'm going to challenge you regarding the time. So we're going to combine two things together. When we're talking about plagiarism and we're talking about building a mindset for teachers, for students, and also for our stakeholders. Unfortunately, when we talk about assessment, we forget that there's pedagogy before technology. Like, we need to focus on the content. What is it exactly that we want to teach? As you mentioned, Dr. Shaker. In addition, we want to focus on the human. So they're talking about artificial intelligence. What about the human intelligence that had created that and need to lead that? And when we're talking about ethical consideration, there is not only the plagiarism, but we also have the bias, we have the communication issues, we have lots of things that we need to consider when we're talking about this. So how can we develop a mindset that will deal with every single thing that we will see in the future that we cannot even predict now, and how we can also prepare those? Shireen, you had a comment, and if you'd like to start answering this question.
Okay, I think I can go into answering your question. So I think AI has really changed, similar to what Ms. Amanda was saying about the calculator. The calculator had to change what we teach and how we teach. It was two things. Before the times of the calculator, I'm not sure if anyone's old enough to remember, they used to teach us how to do the square root manually. This used to be a whole lesson that we would learn. So you had the algorithm of doing the square root. But as this technology came out, that became no longer relevant. They don't teach this anymore in the math curriculum. So what we teach had to change, and how we teach has to change. So one of the dangerous things about from school, so one of my examples working with a school group was that some of the teachers were teaching students what is AI, how do you use AI, and they were even incorporating it, these teachers were incorporating it within their assessments, which is excellent. But because the school didn't have a clear vision of the AI, it didn't have the policies in place. These same students now knew how to use AI very effectively, and they were going to another teacher in another subject, using all the AI tools, using the ChatGPT, and that other teacher from the same school had never heard of ChatGPT before.
Çok hoşuma gidiyor yaşlılardan.
So that teacher had never even heard of ChatGPT before. So it's very important to have those policies in place, to have those clear ways of doing things in place so that it becomes an institutional-wide change. And one very important thing is that if we really want to focus on the human aspect of teaching, just because what a lot of changes we're seeing is that a lot of places are saying, we want to teach now computer science, we want to teach now cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. Yes, that's important. But I think more than ever, we have to teach people how to be human beings, how to ask the right questions and not just solve all the questions. So it's really about knowing the questions that matter before the other things that we're really too concerned about.
Thank you. And asking the right question would help us to innovate and also to move forward instead of just running into circles with no clear vision or no clear actions. Talking about ethical considerations and having this mindset, Dr. Shakir, Randa, do you like to add anything?
Yes, I would like to add something if you don't mind. Yeah.
I don't mind at all.
Okay, thank you. For the ethical consideration and especially for the mindset. First of all, I want to say for all teachers, AI checking if this text was written by AI or not does not work. So I was in a training where I had 40 teachers, and the 40 teachers, they did write like something, they got something from AI. It was 100% AI. And they did put it in the AI detection like tool. And some people, they got 20% only written by AI. Some people, they got 100%. Some people, they got 70%. Some people, they got 30%. It was like, oh my God, it was really surprising how different percentages, and all of them were 100% AI. Because AI is imitating human writing. So there is no way we can differentiate if it was written by AI or not. But what we have to work on is really the mindset of students working with AI. So we have to teach them two things. These two framework, I got them from Daniel Fitzpatrick, I think the AI Classroom book, where he talked about like the prepare framework for the prompt engineering. So when we are talking about like how to write the prompt, there is a framework, what to ask and how to ask the AI tool. And then the edit framework, and this is why I wanted for the ethical consideration and for them to have a critical thinking when they read the AI output. So there is the edit. The E is to evaluate. So they have to evaluate the content of this, like the response, and see if there is any like mistakes in the language and the misinformation. Then they have to determine like the sources of this information. They have to search for and validate any facts that are in the response. They have to identify biasness because AI is biased. And I have an exercise that I do with my students and my teachers where I can show them really how AI is biased. And then at the end, the T is to transform the text into like what they know about, like the response they want, like to transform it. Because at the end of the day, when I write randomiyati under any text, it means I believe in everything it says. So I'm responsible for that. If there is any misinformation, any biasness, any wrong information, I'm responsible for it. So they have to understand that the owner and the response really is mine. So I have to double check that it is true before I submit it. And really it reflects my values, not the AI chatbot's values.
Thank you. Especially now, as we're talking about decolonizing education and helping students to have the student leadership and freedom, they need really to reflect on the sources and to check themselves about the source of the information. Dr. Shakir.
Yeah, I think as we've crossed this river, right, and the idea of originality, I think is going to change. I don't even know if what it's going to take to have someone produce something 100% original, right? Because we're going to come across applications that are going to be more sophisticated, because right now we are thinking about AI applications as applications that are writing for you. But what about AI applications that are writing with you? And so we have, for example, Jenny, that AI, it's an application that writes with you. So now this boundary that existed before between the self and everything else, every other source and tool is now being blurred. But now you are co-writing with Jenny. So that's going to have us maybe redefine or relook at what it means to have an original work. This is not going to be limited to students. I think in 2 years from now, we can look at the publication production over these 2 years and since the introduction of these AI applications. So I'm just saying that, we're grappling with this piece and the train is moving and a lot of things are changing. And so I think, we will serve ourselves better as societies by reflecting on what is it that we really want students to know and be able to do in light of all the tools and applications that they have, within their reach.
And thank you. And that will take us also to the point of switch on, switch off, and also how are we going to lead all these tools and creativity out there instead of keep reacting and saying that this is what had been generated by AI, or like lots of people are afraid of what are the consequences. As we're moving towards the end of the session,
Rania?
I'm really enjoying. Yep, Dr. Ibrahim.
Can I add something about my convincing process? Okay. Actually, as an extract of all I heard today, actually the ethical consideration to me is not related to students. It's much more related to the schools and the principals, because AI changing to how to teach or how to focus on the result of learning outcomes. So, as a teacher, in traditional way, we have some goals in schools, in classes, and we are going with these aims, and we are teaching students accordingly, attracting the learning outcomes to what we teach them. But now, students learn much more information. So we need to be honest as a profession to ourselves. We need to reach our learning outcomes. To make sure ourselves what will be focused on in class students. Then a range of assessment of teaching processes according to the style of life, and then we will be honest to our own selves. In brief, actually, we are not as good as students in AI. So we are always in doubt with students about cheating. So we always cheat someone, but actually we're not enough good to not to be cheated, and we are not enough to make sure ourselves how we redesign our learning outcomes again. Am I convinced or not?
So thank you, Doctor, for sharing. And I'm sure that within the next 2 days, you will be addressing lots of those points within in the in-person sessions in specific and the online ones. As we're concluding, we have one question, and I'm going to ask my distinguished panelists to comment on kind of suggestions for contribution and collaboration or partnership with or between networking between schools and universities or school principals. As you mentioned, Dr. Shakir, there's a difference between public and private schools and lots of programs. So one of the questions that we received, what if the faculty members work in a school where the school does not have a clear vision and policies? And I think, Dr. Shireen, you had mentioned this slightly. And there's another relevant kind of question. What do you think about creating the school policy on using AI even for elementary or primary students? So I think that the participant is a little bit concerned regarding using this within early years. So I'm going to ask you to, if you'd like to comment on those two questions, the collaboration and the questions that I shared with you. And we're going to wrap up and conclude with final thoughts from your side. Who would like to start?
If you like me, I'll start. Okay. So regarding the collaboration, right? We can think about, East and West, right? And what differentiates East and West is that, in the West, there's an environment where, these different components integrate. So, government institutions or educational institutions with private companies, and higher education institutions all collaborate in an environment that promotes innovation, experimentation, piloting without a fear of risk. Then, and so there's, that ground for a lot of, that recipe for a lot of collaboration. On the other hand, in our region, we have, in our region, so in our region, we don't have, that environment, and we have a lot of, restrictions from the rigidity of the educational systems to the disconnect that exists between the universities and the, educational institutions or the K through 2 schools. The lack of a private sector that is, interested in, in investing and testing and innovating these solutions. So for us, this is the issue. We have systemic issues that are basically preventing, this like marrying of, environment, situations, and resources to start testing. Nevertheless, I don't think this should, stop us at the school level from, not waiting for a perfect solution, not waiting for, everything to be perfect, but to start and start systematically spreading awareness, educating, staff, educating students about different applications, which comes to the fact that maybe we will need guidelines. But let's also understand that we cannot put rigid guidelines that stay there forever. So if we're going to work on guidelines, let's agree and let's make sure they are dynamic and that they are changing as everything we do, will continue to change in this AI space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shireen, Randa?
Okay. Okay.
Randa.
Can I? Yeah, I want to comment on both. Regarding the faculty member or the teacher who wants to apply AI, as long as even if the school did not have a policy for that yet, it doesn't, she can say, or he can say, like, I'm using this and this is the policy and this is how I'm integrating the AI because students are already using it. So it will not, it's not really, it's a tool. It's just a tool. If I want to use Padlet, I don't have to ask my administration for the use, and I know students are using it. So I don't think there is a big impact on using AI with the students in the classroom, especially for university students and high school students. Regarding elementary students, definitely there is tools for elementary students. They have to be supervised by the teacher so that they can learn how to use it and how to write prompts in very little steps. But it has to be under the supervision, of course, of the school. Like if I'm an elementary student, I will not introduce AI without like the permission of my administrator, because there is a policy, I think, that will prevent students under 13 to use any AI chatbot like the public one, the Copilot, the Gemini, the ChatGPT. But the school AI or the Magic School are done for these students to use AI under the supervision of teachers, but definitely with the permission of parents and the school administration.
Thank you, Randa. Shireen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to comment on the question about what do we do if our leadership isn't ready and we want to implement tools. So just like Ms. Rania said, you can do it. You don't need anyone's permission. But if you want to take it a step further, you can create your own task force. Get permission from the leadership. No leadership will say no to innovation, to someone coming together and saying I volunteer to do this. Create a task force. Figure out maybe create your own PD for your peers. Create a guidebook. Share best practices and start with that. You can start. You can be the change yourself.
Thank you. And this is a very nice way to start, like, be the change yourself, because we know that there are lots of challenges. Some school principals, they might have negative consequences of some teachers would start something like this without their permission. So it's how to navigate, literally, and how to understand the context and to start gradually instead of trying to reinforce it. I know there are lots of things to discuss based on this. And me personally, I'm super excited, and there's lots of things, kind of coming within my mind, but we need to end as there's another session that's going to start. I can't thank you enough, Dr. Shakir, Dr. Shireen, and Sranda for joining us and having this remarkable, enlightening, and valuable discussion. We know that your insights had helped us also to navigate this kind of complexities and opportunities we all face and we all hear about this AI. It's not going to stop, and we're going to hear more and more. But if I'm going to conclude with something, is as you had all mentioned regarding the priorities and having a clear a clear vision of what is it exactly that we want to achieve. And in addition to connect it to our own values and to our own kind of priorities, what is it that we want those students to be able to do, to learn, in addition to contribute to in the long run. There are lots of things that we all need to discuss, and we cannot wait to hear about the teachers or the participants' comments and feedback. And we already have Dr. Ibrahim convinced with us, Randa. So mission accomplished, it's achieved. It was a challenge between us and Dr. Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim, thank you for this opportunity to start this remarkable conference with this distinguished panelists. And we also wish you all the best with the online and the in-person sessions, if you want to conclude or end this session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you all.